Ooh, that looks tasty. Welcome folks, today the Hungry Gamer is back with another KublaCon recap video. And this is the second year that KublaCon was kind enough to allow me to attend on a press pass. And I also have a podcast recap with Original Don and Manic Mark. We kind of just did a little recap of our experience, our best moments of the con, and the top most fun games that we played. And so we talked about that a little bit. And so there's actually a podcast and video cast version of that as well. You'll find a link to that in the description as well. But starting out with just kind of the broad bit of KublaCon, it was a lot of fun. They have continued to grow and change with as the world comes out of the pandemic. They were still requiring vaccines, which I greatly appreciated. Masks were optional. And I just felt like that is the right way to go. And I never felt bad if I had a mask on. And in general, if I was somewhere with a lot of people or people I didn't really know or whatever, then I tended to have it on. But if I was just playing people that I knew, I could sit somewhere and there weren't a lot of people around, I would sit with it off, and I felt comfortable either way. And so, again, kudos to them. It just worked really, really well. The space was lovely. Maybe it needs to be a little bit bigger. I don't know, but I was pretty comfortable everywhere. I was able to DoorDash food whenever I wanted. I have no complaints with how they managed the con. Though, I will say there was this one dude that just kept showing up, and I don't know who the guy is. So, I'll picture him up there, so maybe you know. I mean, I met his wife, I met his son, and, they were real nice. As near as I can tell, that family plays games. I don't know anything about him. But anyhow, so don't quite know what was up with that. But back to the con itself. They had some good gaming areas where you could just play and do what you wanted. There was a really awesome Protospiel. If you don't know, Protospiel is where designers take their games and they play test them to try to make them better so they can pitch them to a publisher, or if it's already been signed, to continue developing the game. And it was a really hoppin' Protospiel with a ton of prizes they were giving away, and it was just a great time. I spent probably a third, 25% of my time in there playing games in the Protospiel, and then the rest of the time outside playing other games and seeing things. The vendor hall is a smaller vendor hall, but again, it was well laid out. People were happy. People were doing things. There's a couple games being demoed out there. Just really, really well put together. And then a special highlight this year, I sometimes forget, they had a huge Minis Wargaming room. And man, that place was so cool. I mean, I don't need to be in Minis Wargaming, but you go through there and you see some amazing stuff. And again, this dude kept showing up. Again, kept seeing him. Maybe you recognize him. But as I've started doing with just the last con I went to, I'm actually going to go down and talk about all of the games that I played. And the ones that are actually published games, I have them ranked from, well, I didn't actually write down the numbers, so I'm going to have to pause here and write down some numbers, but I think 18 to 1. And then all of the games that I played that were prototypes, I'm not going to rank them. I'm just going to talk about all of them because really I felt bad about ranking prototypes because they're not done. It doesn't seem fair. So I'm going to talk about all of them, and they are going to be listed just literally in the order that I remembered to write them down. But first, I got to number some games. All right, so sorry about that. I had to fix my own numbering, and then actually the battery for the camera was pretty much dead. Probably has to do with this guy right there messing around with things, causing trouble. So first off, I want to talk a little bit about the Protospiel. And in here I have 7 different games that I got to play in the Protospiel. And I'm just going to talk about them very briefly. So the first one is called Dreamworlds, and that is a companion game for Unconscious Mind from Fantasia Games and designed by Johnny Pack. And as you know, Johnny Pack's a friend of mine, so I always kind of get to play all his new toys when he has them. And I really had a good time with this. It was me and Johnny and I don't know, somebody else who played this game. I can't remember. Whatever it was. I can't remember who it was, but it was really a good time. This is a game where you have this row of cards down the middle, and you're playing cards that are the furthest away from the number on the card. So if it's a 12 in the middle, you want to play a 1 because you have a gap of 11. Whatever that gap is going to correlate to how many points worth of little hearts you're able to flip over. So if I have 3, I could flip over a heart that was worth 3 points. If I had an 11, maybe I flip over 2 4s and a 3, or maybe I flip over 3 2s and a 5, whatever I want to do. And the first person to get them all done is going to be the winner. And it's fast, it's quick, it's simple. I really enjoyed it. I don't really have much to complain about, but I also only played it, the one time. So there's that one. Next one is a game called Motifs. And this game is, if this game was published today, it would be official that we have oversaturated the market in classical music creation. Because we already got Lacrimosa, and this would be number 2. And in this game, you are playing as a composer, and you're just trying to make your living or whatever. And it's a worker placement game, but the catch is you put all your workers out, and after all the workers are out, in turn order, people get to pull all their workers back and do other stuff. And you start out performing things like folk music and end up doing operas and symphonies. And it was a pretty darn fun game. I played one-on-one against Original Dawn, and we had a good time. There's a lot of development being done on it, but it's a very cool game, and one that I'm going to be keeping an eye on, see where it goes from here. Next one was Critter Kitchen. This is from Cardboard Alchemy. It's the follow-up to Flamecraft, even though Andromeda's Edge was in the middle, but we're talking about weight of game here, more family weight, very, very cute, where you are a bunch of chefs going around and collecting ingredients to serve this critic that's coming into your kitchen, and you try and get the most stars. And the more I've played this game, the more little modules are getting added in. And every time something gets added in, I enjoy it more and more. This is a cool game that's going to be beautiful. The art's going to be amazing. And if you're someone that really was digging Flamecraft, then this is one you're going to definitely want to check out. If you're the type of person who's like, I played Twilight Imperium and nothing else, well, then maybe this isn't going to be the game for you. The next one is Coloma. Now, I've put out there a little bit that I am officially working on the solo for Coloma and the new expansion and the new printing. And this originated as a fan-made. I just made a solo design for it that I thought worked more like the actual gameplay when you played against it. It's not me slagging off the one that was in the original box, but you could also use the one I designed to kind of add a player to a small player count game. And so I got to actually really test this out with Johnny there and some other people in a full-on game. And what I found out was the bot I designed was too powerful and it beat the tar out of everybody. But that said, I loved getting to do it. I loved getting to be a part of it. So that's very cool. And I've liked Coloma for a long time. I think this new stuff makes Coloma even better. I really, really dig it. Next one is a game called River Valley Glassworks. I don't have a lot to say about it. It's kind of like a mix of a Zool and some other kind of set collection games and kind of drafting tile games. It was fun. It was cute. Very, very early prototype, so I don't want to talk too much about it, but something that I will be watching for as it gets a little further down the road. Some interesting stuff going on there of kind of set collection. Next one was an expansion to Fistful of Meeples, which is a Mancala-inspired game by Johnny Pack, which he put out with Coloma originally, and he's also working on a small little expansion to that, and we got to play that, had a good time with it. In fact, Mark talks about it a lot in the podcast version of our KublaCon wrap-up, so you can check that out as well. And then the next one is Great Houses in Space. I've added the in space, and I got to play that again. This is one that Streamline Matt's been working on, and he's got a couple publishers interested in looking at it, and I'm hoping that goes well. I'm not saying it's signed or anything, but it's getting there. It's maybe this time next year it'll be signed. I don't know. That'd be awesome. I have no idea. But it's one it's a 4X card game. We taught somebody and played a 3-player game, and we were still done, I think, in 45 minutes or something. So very, very cool. A ton of promise. This is, and as I said before, this is the type of game I don't like, but I had fun with it, and I'm willing to play it again, and I vouch for it. It's definitely a cool game. Now, into who is that guy, and why won't he leave me alone? It's weird, right? He's always everywhere I am. There he is. He just keeps showing up. So, jumping into the actual games that I played. Now, as I've said before, I'm going to rank all of the games. I am not saying the number one game on this list is the best game in the world. This is purely based on how much fun did I have playing. And I'm happy to say that I had fun playing literally every single game that I played at the con. So I had to rank them. Here we go. So starting at number 14, Thrones of Valeria. First time I got to play this in teams. We did a 2-on-2. I still think this is a very clever trick taker. I enjoyed it. I would be curious to try it at 6 and with teams it's 6 to kind of see where that goes. I don't know that it needs to be played in teams, but I'm glad I finally tried that. Number 13 is a game called Barony from the designer of Splendor. It plays nothing like Splendor. It's an area control kind of game, and this is one that Original Don's been banging on about forever. It's got to be at least 2 years she's been trying to get me to play this game, so I finally played it. It was fine. I'm just messing with you, Don. No, it was fun. It's very, very much a deterministic type game where you know exactly what's going to happen. The only variable is what does the other player actually do. It was a pretty cool game, and one that I would definitely play again. Number 12 is Furnace, and I like Furnace a lot. I'm looking forward to trying it with the expansion. I got to play just a 2-player game with Streamline Matt while we were waiting for something else to happen. A good time. Number 11 is Pew Pew Bookie Book, or Wizards of the Grimoire. I think it's official. This is now in my list of must-own 2-player games. Assuming you like something that's aggressive, because you are just going right at each other, back and forth, card battling, little engine building. It's very, very clever. I really do enjoy this game. So happy to have that. Number 10 is Woodcraft, and this is one that I asked Peter Vaughn to bring up, and it took forever to teach this game. I swear, every single rule that has ever been in any game whatsoever was taken and doubled and dumped into this game. And thematically, it don't make no sense. Like, it kind of makes sense, but you think about it like, wait a minute, they're doing this? They're working for blueberries? Why are they working? Okay, well, they're working for blueberries because they're animals. Wait a minute, there's also people here. The people are going to work for blueberries, and I'm going to be able to sell the raw materials, even though I don't produce the raw materials. There's all kinds of weird thematic stuff, and it was complicated, like really complicated. And I feel like there's more stuff going on in this game than should be allowed to happen in any game. But I kind of want to play it again. So I'm hoping I get to play it again with Peter Vaughn, because it's an intriguing game. I don't know. I really had so much fun with just us talking about it as we were going through. So number 9 is Mall Peak. I've talked about this game a ton. It is another of those top 2-player games in my mind. I had a great time. Got to teach Peter Vaughn. He kicked my butt, so that was a bummer, but very, very good game. Number 8 is the last of my must-own 2-player competitive games. That is Dice Command. Got to play that the last morning with Original Don, and we play this almost every con, at least once, and it's just such a good tactical little skirmish game. It's fast, it's easy, it's interesting. The choices you make are so interesting as you go, and we played the worst play of the game ever. We ran out the clock, and I won 1-0. It was a terrible showing on both our parts, but I still had fun. It's just such a good game. Number 7 is Backyard Chickens. Ha! There it is, by Original Don and his son, Adrian Gilstrap. It's such a charming game. And I've said so many times, I don't particularly love deck builders. I just don't. There's a couple that I like, but this one stays here. And it's not just because I know the designers and I know the publisher. That's certainly part of it. But it's so charming. It's so cute. And I have to admit, it has one mechanic that I just haven't seen before. This idea that the chickens make your resources, use those resources to buy your cards, deck building. But if you keep your chickens happy, they give you more eggs. If you don't, they give you less eggs. And if you really keep them unhappy, they run away. It's so funny. It's great. Unless your chicken runs away. So I enjoy it, and Manic Mark really wanted to play it, so it was fun to actually get that played again. Number 6 is Lions of Lydia. I've talked about this game a ton, but this was a cool thing. So in the Protospiel, there was all these games being given away, and there was this lovely, bizarre thing that was happening is anytime I was there with somebody that wasn't going to stay for another day, and they had to leave, they would say, hey, well, here's my drawing tickets. If I win something that you think I would like, give it to me. Otherwise, you keep it or give it away or whatever. And I kept winning. And so I was just giving games away left and right. And Mark was there, and Mark has a young child. And these games, maybe a little kid like that. So Mark, here's a game. Mark, here's a game. Mark, here's a game. And he had this stack of games. And I don't know how it came about, but it just so happened that Johnny Pack had another copy of Lions of Lydia. that was going to be in the giveaway, and someone who had won the Lions of Lydia didn't really want it, and so Johnny arranged a trade, and Mark wound up with Lions of Lydia. We got to play it, and it's always a good game. Splendor weight game, but you can cycle it up with modules. It's a wonderful game. It's really a wonderful game. You can get it, guys. Go get it. Next one on the list. Now, this one's interesting. Number 5 is a game that I wrote off because I just didn't care. And that is Dune Imperium. Streamline Matt loves this game. Other than liking me, he has terrible taste. But I just don't care because the whole deck building worker placement combo I think is fine. And I didn't really like the area control thing, so I liked Lost Ruins of Arnak more. I played a few times Endless Winter, which I enjoyed. I previewed it, I enjoyed it, but I don't have a copy of that, so that's kind of out, so I don't talk about that very much. But Streamline Matt got all the expansions, and he got all the expansions. I've never played the expansions, and he blinged the heck out of his game. I mean, blinged it out. So we're playing, had some people that we didn't know that were playing also, and it was such a good time. Let me tell you, these expansions, these 2 expansions that you can get, make the game so much more interesting. Like, I'm not a convert. I'm not a convert. But it was fun. And I would absolutely play it again now, whereas before I'd be like, oh, yeah, I mean, if you want, sure. So Dune Imperium came in at number 5, which is huge. Number 4 for me was Argent the Consortium. Now, this is funny. So I got to play this game twice, and the great thing about it was I got to actually dive in and try one of the small expansions, because we've actually played the game 2 times, almost, not back-to-back, but 2 consecutive days. And there was someone that I really wanted to play this with, and so I brought it, we played, and they didn't dig it. And I think it's great. The other people I played with, they all enjoyed it a lot. Didn't dig it. And I was like, okay. And I got a message from them, and they said, would you bring it back again tomorrow so we can play again? And I'm like, what is wrong with you? You just said you didn't like, but fine. So brought it in, and they still didn't enjoy it very much. I had a great time. It drops down to number 4 just because the one person wasn't enjoying it. They weren't being mean about it. Like, there's one thing, like sometimes if somebody's like not enjoying it, they can be a real turd and it just ruins everybody. They weren't doing that at all. But they weren't enjoying it, and so I felt a little bad that they weren't enjoying or playing this game. That said, I like the game a lot, and I really enjoyed getting to try out one of the little mini expansions, the summer break, when I was thrilled to finally get to try that out. So Argent Consortium number 4, really digging that game. Number 3 was Warp Gate. And I got to play this with all the new expansion stuff, just one-on-one against Manic Mark. We didn't quite finish because we had dinner showing up and we wanted to eat. You know, we had DoorDash's really cool Indo-Chinese place, and oh man, it was so good. But so we played that, and we just played for speed, going as fast as we can. And it's, Warp Gate is one that I don't know why I got. Oh, I know why I got it. I got it because I covered it. That's why. And I thought it was a cool game. I'd played it once at Origins years ago, and it just didn't work for me. I played in a big group, like 6 players or 5 players, and it was a slow and But the new expansion content picks up the pace of the game, and we were playing for speed. And what I mean by that is we were just going as fast as we could. We weren't not thinking about stuff, but we weren't like really analyzing stuff. It's like, okay, I could do this, or I could do this. I'm doing this. Boom, go. And man, it is such a cool game. I really like this game. I really need to play it more, and I really need to try out that new solo mode that it has. That was Warp Gate, coming at number 3. At number 2 was Heroes Welcome. And this was a game, and I've mentioned this at a lot of con videos before because I play this almost every con. And that's like the only place I play it. I don't know why. And I hold on to it because I think the theme is fun. This idea that you're making weapons and armor that you're selling to these bad guys that go into the dungeon. Then the heroes go into the dungeon, beat the bad guys, come out with the loot that you actually made. Then they sell it to you, and you fleece them to get all their money. And then you take that stuff, you break it down, you make more equipment, you send it, and you sell it to new bad guys who go into the dungeon. The heroes go. I love the theme of it, and it has this kind of cool shared single worker that everybody's moving the one worker around the board, which is very, very cool. But I'd never gotten to try the expansion. And Eduardo Baraf, the publisher, was nice enough to give me the expansion when I was at his house testing Mall Peak with him. I'm not living at publishers' houses, people. He just happens to be a local guy, and I was previewing Mall Peak, and he said, "Hey, you live 20 minutes away. Why don't you come by and I'll show you how this stuff works?" So like, I realized when I said that, it sounded like I should go back and edit that out, but no, it's the normal thing. It's not weird. But when I was leaving, he said, "Is there anything that we have that you'd like to cover?" I said, I'd love to just check out the expansion for this, but I haven't gotten to play it because it's like so many expansions, you have to have played the game to want to introduce the expansion, and I just kept only playing with just one person who'd played before and new people. But this time, I saw Ed Baraf, and I called across the room to him. I said, "Hey, you want to play this with us? We're going to play later." He says, "No, but I'll send the designer to play." So the designer came, he taught us the expansion. Mark had not played this game before, but he taught Mark the game. And I don't ever want to play this game without the expansion again. It's got like 3 little mini expansions in the expansion, little mini modules. So I can see maybe only not using 1 or 2 of them, but it's the way the game was meant to be played, I think. It's just great. I enjoyed it. I got a review video coming relatively soon, probably next few weeks. And it's a very cool game. It's definitely a hidden little gem here. I really enjoyed it. Which brings us to number 1. To me, the most fun I had playing a game the entire con. Who are you? Anyhow, see, he waits and he interrupts me in the biggest moments, right? The biggest, here I am trying to tell you the best moment, and here's this dude. Unbelievable. Anyhow, the best game for me of the con was Asking for Troubles, because we played a high player count game. It's funny, it's silly, and we played fast. And let me tell you, there is not another Euro game out there that you are going to find that you can play at 5 players and you're going to play in an hour and you're going to feel like you made a lot of choices. It just doesn't exist. This is a special game at high player counts, and I just really enjoy it. I like the expansions too. I almost never get to take the expansions out of the box, but I like them. I love the core game, had a great time with it, and really was the standout for me at KublaCon. So, there you have it, folks. That is my con experience. I definitely want to go back to KublaCon again next year. I can't think of anything bad to say about KublaCon, other than my dumb self stayed too late one night and I had to drive back home because it's about an hour away from my house. So it's getting the hotel. That's more money than I wanted to spend. So I was driving back and forth, and it was fine. I stayed a little bit too. I played one game too much one night, and that's on me. And so like that last, you guys know what I'm talking about. Like that last 5 minutes, you're like, oh man, I'm so tired. I'm like trying to drive home. Like 5 more minutes, I gotta get there. And that has nothing to do with the con. That has to do with me. My point is, I had to struggle to find that thing to say, well, that wasn't perfect. So basically, me not being rich is what wasn't perfect about it. I'm telling you, if you are in California, can get to California for KublaCon, it is the best of the small, large cons. A lot of people were there. It's not ginormous, but it's the biggest of the small cons, and it was just a blast. So as always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. A little thank you to Mick from Our Family Plays Games for putting up with my nonsense in this video, though he threw some serious shade at me in his video, so come up, it's buddy. Can't wait to see how you respond. Anyhow, love and thanks to Our Family Plays Game for being good sports. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.